Well, welcome back from the break. I'm glad to see that most of you stayed. In 2015, Christine and I had the opportunity to make our first pilgrimage, and it was to Rome, Fatima, Lourdes, and Spain. And that's why there's so many red dots on this map. This particular trip, we flew into Lisbon and we rode the coast on the left side of the map, or the west side, to the north and all the way into Lourdes, but through a place called Covadonga, and also visited Loyola and Montserrat back into Spain, and then finally we finished in Barcelona with one of the world's best guides.
Hello, my name is Teresa. I am a tour guide in Portugal, and I am glad to welcome you this next May with my friends Christina and Paul, and of course Deacon Dow, coming with this beautiful pilgrimage to be in the company of the Blessed Mother and all the saints we are going to visit in every shrine of Portugal, Spain, and France, and of course having the special visit of the Holy Father Pope Francis. May the Lord bless us all. Thank you for corresponding with a wide open heart to the invitation of the Blessed Mother. Blessings to all of you and your dear ones, and here I am. Keep on praying for you to come and have a nice pilgrimage. Bye.
Like every pilgrimage that we take, we had Mass and we took the C&J bus to Logan Airport, and we found ourselves flying on the same flight as Cardinal Sean O'Malley. We all boarded the plane together, although he was in first class, but we can't blame him. He also was on the altar with the Pope. Off we go. We fly to Lisbon. This was Deacon Paul's first pilgrimage as the chief spiritual director, and it's always good to hand off the group to the guide and the driver. Get on the bus. Which we did, and we headed straight for Fatima. And Our Lady was waiting, as was Jesus. And you know who was really happy? The Pope was finally in Fatima. And we had arrived in time for the 100th centennial celebration of the apparitions, as well as the canonization of the two young saints, Jacinta and Francisco. We had the opportunity to see what the space would look like. We saw Our Lady. We saw pilgrims in flocks, all decked out, all there to see one special thing. The Pope was going to be there, and two saints were going to be canonized. And we had quite a time. It was an amazing adventure. I use that word a lot, but you had to be there. I did a 25-minute movie on just our time in Fatima, but I'm not going to do that today. I really want you to just get the feel for the crowds. 1 million pilgrims from everywhere. We had Mass with the Pope. We watched him come, and we saw him leave, and we were this close. When you see the Pope up close and personal and get a chance to lock eyes with him like I did, and like this young lady did, you'll never forget it. The rosary that night, the vigil, with the Holy Father praying in front of the statue for 5 minutes of silence, 1 million people holding candles. The Mass, incredible Mass. Imagine Holy Communion for all those people. It was really a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So our 3 days in Fatima went pretty quickly, even though they were very long. We spent a tremendous amount of time on the ground in Fatima. Some of us had the opportunity to have their picture taken with Cardinal Sean, but half of us were stuck on the other side of that monstrous crowd. We all did get together for this group photo, which we had taken after the Mass that we shared in the church where Lucia, the third of the children, was a nun for a long time and lived into her 80s before she passed recently. So it was wonderful, but it's time to leave. We need to get to Santiago de Compostela. So Pedro took us on the bus and we drove through a little town called Braga where we stopped briefly for a little break and we got to see this Church of the Bom Jesus, which means the Good Jesus. We had our photo taken in front of it, and off of that, between the pillars on down into the valley, is a stairway called the Stairway to Heaven. We got to Santiago de Compostela in time to check in and relax after a busy day. No touring, just a little bit of dining, a little bit of fun till the next day when we meet a local guide who shows us around Santiago, which was really, it's a medieval city. The high point, and we'll get to that, was the Mass inside the cathedral. And Deacon Paul had the opportunity to be on the altar and do the reading in English, so that was one of the many amazing experiences he'd already had in just a few days. So we walked a portion of the Camino, not like these folks who walked the whole thing, but we all got a certificate that said we did something, and they hung a shell, a scallop shell around all of our necks. It was a ceremonial thing. Deacon Paul gave his wife a hug and everybody else. We had a nice photo taken. Some of the pilgrims who did the walk to do the last 3.5 or I guess 5 kilometers. It was fun. One of the things that Santiago is famous for is this butifumerio. I hope I pronounced it right, but it is a huge incense device that they used to fumigate the church back in the old days. This was a great day for Deacon Paul, proclaiming the gospel, and now he's standing on the altar while this major event happens. That's it for Santiago. We're out of here. We're on our way to a little tiny place called Covadonga, where we're going to spend a night in just an enchanted little hamlet on the side of a mountain. It's got a beautiful church. It is high in elevation, has a cave with a tiny chapel inside. Deacon Paul gets the opportunity once again to be with a different priest. That's one of the things that happened on the trip. We're used to having Timothy and Paul side by side, but it didn't happen on this trip, so Deacon Paul served at Mass each day with priests speaking all kinds of languages. It was an event for all of us. Here's the Serenos sharing a glass of wine out in front of the little restaurant where we had dinner, and there's Elaine getting in her steps. We're out of here. Next stop is going to be Loyola, where we'll have Mass in the bedroom of conversion. We stop for a snack along the way and enjoy the beautiful countryside. Loyola, beautiful. St. Ignatius. Mass in the bedroom of conversion with yet another group. St. Ignatius is sitting in the corner hearing the word from God. Get out of here. We're gone again. Now we're headed for Lourdes. We'll get there. Teresa will talk to us about what we're about to visit and see. The history of St. Bernadette. This is the view from our hotel room of the Gave River and Our Lady in the grotto. It was military celebration week, happens every May. They come by the hundreds from all over. Celebrating Mass in the grotto is something that goes on all day. We took a walking tour on one of the 2 days we stayed. It rained on us a bit, maybe a lot. We saw St. Bernadette's home, those rosaries, a stained glass window of the apparitions, St. Bernadette's veil. And each night we would go for the rosary. People would arrive from all over the world, bringing the sick and the suffering, looking for healing. The waters in Lourdes are perceived to heal. The waters in Fatima are perceived to heal the soul. So the processions each night are like this. So really, once again, I'm only able to give you a sniff of what it was like to be in this beautiful place for 2 nights, but we had to leave. This is the upper basilica, and we were able to take a picture where the rosary procession is done every night. There's also a lower basilica that seats 20,000 people. But we've got to go. We're headed to Barcelona, and we're going to be doing that by way of Montserrat Monastery that is located in the mountains, and the ride is beautiful. Teresa gives us our marching orders the night before. And along the way we stop for snacks. And the friends that pray together plank together, I guess. But there's Montserrat as we approach, high in the mountains. The views were really breathtaking. And while we were looking at that outcrop of rock, somebody noticed a small speck, and I decided to try out the digital zoom on my Nikon. And as you can see, we found these 2 guys hanging off the side of this monster rock, making their way up the mountain. Then we progressed our way into the monastery where we could view all of the museum that's inside there, and there's an opportunity to pray at the Black Madonna. But we were out of here in 2 hours. And on the bus, Teresa shepherding us and taking us to Barcelona to the Hotel Balmoral. We had Mass the next day somewhere. We saw the panoramic views of Barcelona. Had an opportunity to take some nice photos. We saw Gaudi's work, and now I know why they call it Gaudi. An amazing project, a lot of history on Wikipedia. Started building it in 1883, and it's still not done 136 years later. 2026. Anyway, one more opportunity to celebrate 12 days. Needless to say, we ate and drank and were merry all the way through every one of our pilgrimages, but this lunch in Barcelona, have some paella. It was great. So look at the luggage out time and notice that we're going to get awakened at 2 a.m. on a bus. This is our trip to the airport, giving Teresa a hug at the airport for all her good work. The two of us have had all the fun we can have on this one, but we're pleased to be bringing everybody home. Italy, next up.